Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar. In today's webinar, I'm joining Ian Pilkington in exploring the capabilities of 3D Lean, one of the newest additions to the 3D Experience platform. If you have any questions during the webinar, then please type them into the chat box on the right, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Now, before we jump into the actual content, we would like to run two quick polls to get a better understanding of how you are currently conducting your meetings. So let me launch the first poll. So we'd like to get a better understanding of how you're currently carrying out your team meetings. So we've got a couple of different options here. So the first one is going fully digital using tools like Skype or Zoom or Teams. The second one here is more of a hybrid approach, where some of your colleagues will participate digitally and some of your colleagues are physically present in the office or on site. And the last option is the old school option of meeting face-to-face, either in the office or on site. So I can see that most of the people have responded by now. And I can actually see that over 60% of you use Skype and Zoom and Teams on a daily basis, carrying out your meetings digitally. And 32% actually take more of a hybrid approach, with some people participating digitally and some people are physically present. So thank you for filling in that one. And then real quick, just another poll about your top frustrations of these meeting minutes, right? So we all have to transition towards doing meetings more online. So either meetings can run over time, they can be difficult to prepare, taking documentation into account and the agenda. Perhaps it's difficult for you to keep track of actions, or it's difficult to encourage openness and participation, especially now that we're transitioning towards online and it's easy to press a mute button. So I can see that most of you have voted. So about 35% of people voted for the last option, so all of the above. And the top frustration here is difficult to encourage openness and participation, with difficult to keep track of actions as a close second. So let me close that poll and thank you for that one as well. So now that we know a bit more about how you're currently running meetings, Ian, I'm sure you've been in many, many meetings throughout your career. Do these results resonate with you?
Yes. So yes, I definitely agree. Let me just advance the slide about meetings. So I've spent many hours in many meetings over the years. Obviously, at the moment, a lot of us are taking part in meetings virtually with Skype and Zoom and Teams and other systems, and it can be really difficult. You can be really disconnected. We've spent obviously way too many times in virtual meetings, and often we turn up for these meetings and sign in, and at least now we can see our colleagues or we can talk to them, but quite often you've very little upfront information about what the meeting is about. They're not very engaging. We don't really know what the structure is, and in essence, many meetings just take too long and are just not productive at all. Let me just advance the slide. And even when we can have this hybrid model, or in the good old days where we were face to face most of the time, then even then we know that things are difficult. The larger the group that we've got in meetings, the more difficult it is to be engaged, and people tend to sit back and let others take over. There's always somebody running late. Agenda items get missed. And even this in a face-to-face or a hybrid world is very difficult to accomplish anything meaningful. And actions. So this is one of my main problems with meetings, is that we spend a lot of time in meetings and we discuss things, but then it's how do you actually follow this up? How do you actually make the meeting meaningful? How does the brainstorming process work? How do we get that list of actions that usually at the moment is just an email, and you frantically look down the bullet point list to see if your initials appear at the end of any of the actions, So you don't really feel engaged in what's gone on, and certainly not in what you need to do to follow up. And generating ideas, and there's a nice picture there of probably how many of us have spent the last 12 months on a Skype call or a Zoom call or a Teams call. And how do we make this process of brainstorming, of meetings, of solving problems? How do we make it more engaging and intuitive? And it's difficult, and it's not very visual the way that we work, because okay, we can see our colleagues, but there's not a lot else that can happen. We might take notes on paper, we may be scribbling somewhere else on another screen, but this lack of interactivity is really difficult. So that's why we're here today. So I wanted to present 3D Lean, which I think is a fantastic piece of technology. And this is this technology has been born out of the lean principles. Like, you may have heard of things like Kaizen, for continuous improvement, focused on shop floor productivity. And working lean, it's really focused on delivering actual work, and it's the application itself lends itself to providing a really interactive, graphical way for all team members to contribute to more meaningful team meetings. And more than anything, meetings using lean are far more fun. We actually use this extensively now within DS, and have been for a few months, and I've noticed just how much more productive the solution and how meetings are compared to what we used to do before. So let's just have a look at the demo. So the demo scenario itself is based around myself and these 4 characters. So we've got Mike, who's a manufacturing engineer at the top, Don, who's a designer. You may have seen some of these characters appear in some of the webinars we've done before. Debbie, who's also a designer, and Peter, who's a project manager down in the bottom right. And just to set the scene, Mike, who's the manufacturing engineer, has realized that this linkage assembly has got a problem when we're in manufacturing, when we're doing some preliminary testing, and we need to solve the issue. So I'm going to jump straight into the platform and show you exactly what's going on. So let's just start this. So we've got a community. Many of you will have seen these in other webinars and demonstrations. I know some of them use them. You see, Mike here is kind of using this as a discussion board to tell everyone about the problems with this linkage assembly. So he's added some detail. Everyone can respond. We've got some screenshots of the actual installation and the problem part itself. He's then going to go back and take a look at some of the comments. So we've got the whole team in there have commented on what this issue could be. And we can see the team themselves. So we've got Debbie, Don, Mike. I'm in there as well as like a leader, and Peter. So this is just showing that this kind of collaboration is really useful when you want to document something. But what it's not so great at is actually encouraging the brainstorming activity that many of us need to, to make products and ideas come to life.
So,
okay.
Ian, based on our previous polls, most people at this point would start a Skype call or a Zoom call, right?
Yeah, they would, and and then it would be a case of looking at an email or even printing something out, and immediately people are going into the call, and of course Skype calls they're much better than back in the day when I started in engineering. That just didn't happen. But there's what we're going to show next really encourages you to be far more interactive and to encourage this interactive nature of meetings. So let me zoom forward. So what I do then is go to create what we call a lean board, and I've already got some set up for things like weekly meetings, but I'm going to set up a board for a meeting just for these linkage issues. And you'll see us start with a blank screen. And the first thing to do is just to set up what we want to discuss. So this is all very touch friendly. So I can drag in an application to set which team meeting invites, maybe a PDF panel, a web page to view some content, some 3D play, which allows some visualization of 3D information, an interactive whiteboard we just call a sketchboard, and then an action log. Okay, so all I've done really is lay out what I want to discuss in the meeting. And, you know, I know quite often our meetings are sent by email with bullet points of agenda items. And this really is, you know, far more visually appealing. And it means I can set the meeting up and the agenda exactly how I want it to run. So now that I've set this up, I'm going to go into the team tab. I'm going to invite each of the members. So I'm going to bring in Mike. I'm going to bring in Don. I'm going to bring in Debbie. And I'm going to bring in Peter. So it's as simple as that, just by adding. And as I say, it's very touch friendly as well on the interface. For the PDF file, I know that I've got a stress report that was done by somebody. So I can just go and find that, drag it from my disk, and I can view that PDF report directly within the PDF viewer so that it's ready to show within the meeting. So the web page is interesting because I can literally put any web page address, any URL in there. And what I thought would be useful for this demo, for this meeting, is to show that we could actually point this back to the community where Mike originally raised the problem. Okay, so that's all set like that. Now, 3D Play, and I really like this because any of you who've used the platform will realize that it's very powerful at visualizing 3D information. So, you know, we can see on the right that we've got our SolidWorks information, and I'm now going to go and let me just jump forward. I'm going to go and find some 3D content and just be able to visualize it so that I can use that in the meeting. And I'll use a simple search filter to go and search for the knee. Okay, and that will filter the content, my design content on the right. And what that means, I can just now simply drag and drop that knee assembly into the window, and we see that stream in there. So straight away, we've got the most accurate, up-to-date version of our design on screen that we can then discuss within the meeting. And so me as the meeting leader, I don't want to start spinning 3D graphics within the meeting. So I can simply just go ahead and snapshot individual views that are important. So I'm going to spin this round. And I know Mike said there was some problems with cracking, so I'm going to snapshot that view as well. Okay. So when I move forward into the sketch panel, this is really just like a virtual whiteboard that everyone can see during the meeting. But what I want to do is set this up so that people can see the issue at hand, which is the cracking of this component. So I can bring in that snapshot that I took from our 3D data. I can shrink it down and move it out the way. And I can bring in the other image, the close-up of the underside. And again, just by selecting and zooming out, maybe rearrange this, maybe zoom in a little bit, something like that. Okay, so now we're kind of ready to go. And the final piece of the puzzle is the action log, and we're going to go into this in more detail when we actually run the meeting. Okay.
All right, so you've set up the meeting now, but could you have not just done this via screen sharing?
Yeah, obviously, but what you will see is how interactive and engaging this is going to be when we actually do the meeting. A screen share doesn't let you work as seamlessly as we can with 3D Lean. All I've done really here is set up the discussion points for the meeting. What we'll see next is how we actually run the meeting and how interactive it is. Okay. So when I click on the meeting tab, you'll see I'm invited to kind of pick which agenda items I want. So I'm going to have the PDF viewer, the web page, the sketch, and the action log. I can set the duration of the meeting, which I really like. So this is fixed 30 minutes, and the attendees. So I've got all the usual characters there, and I can now just start the meeting. Now this, for me, as Ian, this just jumps into the PDF viewer. what you've got to remember is all the other attendees will see exactly what I'm seeing on screen. So it is like doing a Skype screen share, except the agenda items are live and ordered, and it also means I can interact with these items. So, for example, within the PDF file, I could go and, you know, a hand sketch, you know, in this case, just a simple question mark. You'll see later that there are other capabilities like stickers and keyboard inputs that we can put on there. And just remember, everybody sees this, and they see from my little avatar there that it's me that's actually done it. So fast forwarding onto the swim community, the web page, you know, the team, we can all see this. We can discuss Mike's findings. We can discuss ideas, maybe what was going wrong. And some people have already commented. And again, we can, once that's finished, we can fast forward onto the next agenda item. Now, this is the important bit. So this is the whiteboard. This is where we do all our real brainstorming. So we've got some images in there of the problem. So myself, I can start sketching on screen, and you can see my mouse moving across there. I can switch to the keyboard to create a virtual post-it note and drag this on there. So everybody else is seeing the same thing. And if we just hang on for a few seconds, you'll see that Mike, on his screen, he's added a post-it note there in response to what I've put. And again, he's drawing on there as well, and, you know, a couple of different colors. So we can annotate the whiteboard in different ways. And there, Debbie, she's commented that, you know, we may have seen this problem before on a previous project, which is interesting to know. So all the time, of course, we're speaking, but we're just throwing ideas down. I'm using the sticker just to give Debbie the thumbs up. I think that's a good idea. And these libraries of stickers are available, and you can do whatever we want to. Hold on, let me just play this. Here we go. There we go. So we can see the exclamation mark on Mike's comments. So I'm going to add a note, you know, it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like a plan. And I'm just going to go and place that down next to the conversation, if you like, we've had around the cracking and the previous experience. Okay. So moving forward, and you'll see that there's the timer up on the left-hand side of the screen, and that's rapidly going down. I've recognized a problem. So I can categorize this as a problem that we have with stress concentrations. And I can zoom in there just to emphasize that this is a problem. And again, you know, just create some simple annotations on the whiteboard just to show everyone that this sharp corner that we've got is not great. So when we go into the problem, you can see that there are other things and other attachments. So I could say, well, you know, that image there, that really highlights what the issue is, what the sharp edge is causing us real problems. And I can then go and create an action to solve this problem, right? So it makes sense. And I can say, Don is going to do some calculations, and I'll even draw a little tick on there just to make it look like a positive things to do. And so Don knows that this is a real action. I can drag him on there from the team bar, and he can see exactly what's being decided. Now, of course, Don is seeing all this because he's actively part of the meeting. Okay. So moving forward, and this is the really key thing, is that Don, working with his iPad, he's looking at the same meeting, of course. So he sees my comment, he sees my action that I've assigned to him. He has no real option really, but just to say, okay, yes, I'll get on it, and you see that he's moving that up. And so this really shows off the way that the brainstorming and the interaction works with 3D Lean. As I said, we use it all the time now within DS, and it's really, really useful. So we fast forward a little bit, we see the meeting time is down to just under 5 minutes. We've added some more ideas on there, you know, down in the left-hand corner, we've got, have we had any issues in the field? Don's replied, no, not that I know of. You know, Mike up at the top has I've asked him to investigate the material spec, and he's going to investigate it. So I've applied some actions. Everybody knows what we need to do, and we can quickly move forward to a resolution. So this is where the action tab comes in. So all of the actions I've created move into the waiting box, and I can then just manually drag and drop these into whether we're going to fix this today, tomorrow, or whenever. I can go and, obviously we've seen before, drag someone responsible. So I'll ask Mike to take a look at the material spec. And of course, the one that we did interactively with Don to do some calculations is in there as well. And I can say, Don, I really need you to do this today. Now, to take this the next step, we could go and say that we want to formalize this action to make it a real task. And I want Don to actually go and create this, go and do this task within the next couple of days. And we can see from the icon on the post-it note there that it changes to indicate that this has become a more formal task than just a simple to-do list.
I guess we're all used to getting a lot of actions after a meeting, usually through bullet points with our initials, but this seems way more transparent as well.
Well, it is, yeah. So I think if I think back to, very recently, we used to execute meetings and now we used to generate actions. Of course, it would be usually an email. More recently, we've started to use swim communities to document meeting minutes and things, which is fabulous. But I think what this does is it's kind of the unstructured way of to-do lists, which is what you're seeing on screen now. So people can see what they've got to do, even if it's just organizing your daily routine of answering emails or responding to things. It's an easy way using post-its to just organize yourself and make it very visual. But the next step beyond that is to do what we just did with Don, is where we need to make things more formal, where there's an actual, a project task that needs to happen, then we can do that obviously very easily because it's all connected into the 3D experience platform. Okay, so just to show that and to finish off the demo, let's go to the last step. Okay, let me move forward. Right, here we go. So that task that we created for Don, we can see there when we go per to-do list, Don to do some calculations. I've highlighted that. And when we click on it, those of you familiar with collaborative tasks and project managing, you'll see all the information you need is there. So the task has come from the lean board. I've changed the urgency to high, the duration, all the other stuff that kind of really formalizes this as a real task, a real project task. And when I squeeze this down, and you can see the project plan behind the back of all this for engineering. So this is obviously just a demo, but we can just drag the task to in work, which basically means Don gets a notification to say he's got to do something, and then I can go and just drag that into the project so that Don is now part of a bigger project, and we can set prerequisites, etc., so that we can track things. So within that project, obviously we've got members, we've got the schedule, we've got the list of tasks that we saw before. Don's task is in there, and even the summary. So, the tasks that are at risk of running late and things like task burn down. So really we can go all the way from, a brainstorming session right through to executing a project, more formally with more control and more inspection.
Yeah, and I think this is taking managing your tasks to the next level as well. Just the ability to have more insightful and productive meetings is really valuable for any team. It probably saves you a lot of time as well. Yeah,
and as I've said before, I think the real value of 3D Lean is encouraging people to be more interactive, to encourage the brainstorming activity, to just make meetings more fun and meaningful. But I think in engineering, we typically would want to create real tasks that are traceable and a part of a bigger project. So that's why I wanted to bolt this little bit on the end, just to show that Lean doesn't work in isolation. It's all part of the 3D experience platform and what it can do. Okay, so there we are with the demo. I did want to point out, let me just advance the slide, sorry. I did want to point out that, you know, if you want to learn more, then please contact your local reseller. And it's a really good time to take advantage of some really special offers that are available right now. And your local reseller can help you out and show you more and push things forward. Okay. So I think it's pretty obvious from the demonstration what 3D Lean is about. You know, we've spent so much time, many of us have been in lockdown or in restrictions on travel, with face-to-face meetings just physically just aren't possible at the moment. And I think in the future we're going to be working more remotely in hybrid teams as well. And I think this solution really does mean that, you know, engaging with you and your team is much easier. It's much more simplified. It does help workers communicate, as I say, and engage in natural ways. And it kind of plugs you into the rest of the system. So all of your content, 3D data or documentation that's naturally controlled within the 3D experience platform, it makes that content easy to share and brainstorm over.